Hey guys, it's Hunter. Welcome back to another video. So this 7-string single cut is a guitar I've been getting a lot of messages about. As far as affordable 7-strings go, as single cut fans, our options are pretty limited. And then this thing has come along. It looks crazy good and there's definitely a lot of potential here. So the question though, is this worth taking a chance on? Let's take a closer look. Alright, so we'll talk more about this guitar in a second, but first, we have to talk about the brand. Now, 10S has had an eventful PR year. There have been reports of insane custom shop order delays, lack of communication. From recent reports, it seems they've gotten much better when it comes to those customer service aspects. And I'm not making excuses for them or anything, I'm just laying out my personal experiences. Because probably the top question I get about this brand is, hey, these guitars look cool, are they legit? Yes, they are legit, but to me it seems like the story of a small company that grew too fast. I'd recommend, if you are checking these guitars out, going with the in-stock models from the Reverb store. It gives you that extra layer of consumer protection, because from the ones I've played so far, these are pretty great guitars with good specs for the money. And so, on that note, let's talk about specs. So we've got a thick boy swamp ash body with a carved maple cap, then an awesome flames maple veneer. This particular one is flamed in some places, burled in others, and the open pore satin finish gives this guitar a ton of character. And when I said the body of this guitar is a thick boy, I meant it. On the edges, the body measures 50 millimeters thick, or just under 2 smaller Freedom length units, inches. It's a few millimeters thicker than the body on my Heritage H150 Standard, which is a very traditional Les Paul type guitar. Anyways, the reason that I'm spending so much time talking about this, the 10S GF7 is heavy as hell, even with the belly cutaway. That's the first thing I really noticed about this guitar, and I'm not just talking about the tones that it's designed for. This is just a heavy, heavy guitar. This is a boat anchor, and I love heavy guitars. This is about as heavy as my modded Norlands, well over 10 pounds. It's a bulky boy. Now, that being said, it's a great player and I love the neck on this thing. It's clearly taken a lot of inspiration from ESP because the neck and neck joint feel near identical to the recent LTDs I've played. It's got a nice ebony fingerboard with 24 big ass jumbo frets, thin U neck shape, satin finish, and I love how the rosewood is open pore like the Swamp Ash body, so you can feel the texture of the wood grain. I love it. This is also an incredibly stable neck. It's kind of hidden by the dark stain, but look close. The set through neck is 5-piece maple rosewood. It looks awesome, especially since some of the maple has this incredible flame figuring that even comes through the dark stain, but more importantly, that multi-piece acts as a safeguard against warping, which is especially important when the necks on extended range guitars are this wide. This neck cutaway is also fantastic. It's got that ergonomic set through neck joint. I love this neck joint. It just seems to fit the hand perfectly while still giving your palm something to rest on when the widdlies are required. Alright, pause. Now, I am not a 7-string player, but something I've noticed about extended range players is that they tend to be very particular when it comes to their scale lengths. 25.5 inches is perfect if you don't want to stray too far from that traditional single cut feel, but in 7-string form. The trade-off is that there's a fair amount of pitch drift on the low B compared to 7 strings with a longer scale length. So in a way, this is almost a traditional feeling 7-string, as ridiculous as that might sound. Give your brain a second to wrap itself around that one. Adding to that traditional vibe, Grover tuners, bone nut, tuning stability was a non-issue. The pickups in this 10S GF7 are Tesla humbuckers. No, Elon Musk had nothing to do with it. Put your Dogecoin back where it came from. Tesla has started to become a reputable name for budget guitar pickups. A lot of Harley Bentons have now switched over to Teslas instead of Roswells, actually. They're made in Korea, and they're actually quite decent. Now, I'm fairly picky when it comes to my pickups, especially extended range. Tuned this low, I like when they're really tight, and these are a little loose for my liking, but that's just me. Pickups are pickups, you can always swap them out for Fish and Moderns or something, and I love how they're direct mounted though, it looks great. The control cavity is quite clean too, shielded paint, solder joints look decent, big alpha pots, none of those cheap pig iron mini pots found in import guitars of yesteryear. Import guitars really have come such a long way. Now, 10S in my mind have two fairly distinct lines of guitars. They have their relics and they have their moderns, and I love their relics. They're kind of like the Fender Roadworn series light nitro finish that's been aged a bit. They're awesome, they feel played in, and they're the closest things I've come across to a proper vintage Les Paul on a budget. Even more so than Epiphone's 1959 Les Paul Standard or the Old Glory, because nothing compares to a proper worn nitro finish. The moderns like these, they're great players too, but they don't have any of that played in factor. The binding and everything, it feels brand new, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but let me explain what I mean. It's things like the fingerboard edges haven't been rounded for comfort. The binding up here isn't smooth at all and digs into your arm a little bit, and that can be kind of annoying for extended demo tracking sessions, for example. In terms of fit and finish, I did notice a decent amount of glue residue on the fingerboard and a couple of subtle paint smudges on the body binding. The side dots aren't uniformly in the middle of the fingerboard binding either, but I was actually quite surprised. There's no ugly tool marks or anything like that. I mean, overall the guitar just looks fantastic front and back. And this actually isn't my first 10S 7-string. They built a custom one for me a couple years ago before they were making production versions, and I have to say that in terms of the small aesthetic details and finishing touches, this is a noticeable improvement from the models they were making in 2018, 2019. So overall, final thoughts, this 10S GF7 Modern kind of reinforces how I already felt about 10S guitars. The guitars look awesome. The specs are right up my alley as someone who loves the modern takes on classic concepts. Like this top, this 5-piece neck on a 7-string single cut with a swamp ash body. Yes. It's really just these small nitpicky things that give away that it's a sub $800 guitar. The glue residue on the fingerboard, the non-rounded fingerboard edges, it's actually mostly the non-rounded fingerboard edges. The small details are important, but I don't mean for this video to sound negative, because it's not. This is a solid, heavy-ass guitar that needs to be played in. And honestly, I had a ton of fun with it. Most 7-strings, they feel ultra modern, to the point where they're great players, but they feel a bit like soulless tools. This though, it's got undeniable character, and I think it's this open pore satin finish, especially on the swamp ash body and on the back of the neck. It feels really good, it looks really good, just in general. Again, not really a 7-string player. Maybe I should be though. That extra low string is really fun. But those are just my thoughts as a mainly 6-string player. I'd love to know what you're thinking in the comments down below. So thanks to 10S for sending this guitar over for us to check out together, and to Oliver Springman and the rest of the amazing patrons. If you want to support the channel as well and get bonus extras, Patreon community is in the description. Affiliate, social media, merch, and Discord server links are down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. You've been awesome, and I'll see you for the next video.